really want to start with focusing on children and maybe get some information to parents. I mean, how do you talk to your children, especially the young ones, about what they're seeing and what's happening?
Sure. Kids are aware. I was speaking to a group of fifth graders at an intermediate school, and they're aware of what's happening. As far as allowing kids to see, even those images we just saw are hard to comprehend, and they're scary and they're sad. So we, for sure, as always, focus on what is age appropriate. So young children do not need to see any images. They may not be aware, but preteens and young teens, they're obviously not shielded from seeing images. And so we want to talk to them about several things. One, as kids get older, they need to know historical context. They need to know what is happening, to have some understanding, as hard as it is, of what is happening. And then secondly, depending on the temperament of your child, if they have seen images, we're processing that with them. I think it is so important to always emphasize the fact that we do need to watch how much we watch. We also need to validate their feelings, what they're seeing, they don't understand. And bottom line, having compassion. And we can only influence what's right around us, but seeing violence and death is hard to comprehend. So we bring that back to what we can change, what we can control, and validate the fear and the sadness and the difficulty about what it is that we are seeing.
And when you talk about the feelings that, kids may be having, I know, we're having this greater conversation about mental health and people are getting more comfortable talking about what they feel, but children, may not be as open or may not always be able to find the words for their feelings. So what can we be looking for to say, hey, maybe this child I know is kind of going through something, and maybe not just vocalizing that?
Right. We always ask open-ended questions, and so we find out what our kids have seen. We ask questions like, what do you feel or what are you thinking when you see that? So important to honor the perspective of our kids. That builds their ability to talk about feelings and talk about their experience. So by opening the conversation and really believing that what our kids say is important, by showing that listening, then that is encouraging of our kids to share. Our kids may deal with anxiousness. They might deal with depression. Kids can deal with anxiety and depression. And while that might already be happening, we want to be in tune when events like this happen, because it can exacerbate that anxiousness or that sense of helplessness that is related to depression. So to get our kids to talk, it's open-ended questions, it's showing attention and validating when they do talk. But with any event and day to day, so important to be in tune with the emotions of our kids and help them develop the language to talk about it. And then they are more likely to share and therefore more likely to get support.
And one more question for you. You talked about being discerning with the content for kids. I mean, for all of us, seeing this is a lot. Of course, we've been talking about things that are a lot for the past couple of years. How do we balance staying informed and taking care of ourselves and not letting ourselves get emotionally bogged down, as hard as it is, with everything that we're seeing?
Yes, I do think what we take in becomes a part of us. And we, at the same time, do need to have empathy and recognize that there is pain in our world. There is violence, and thinking about what we can do in our own communities. So certainly we don't want to dismiss or deny that there are difficulties. At the same time, thinking about how we spend our day, how we spend our downtime, because when we take in information or when we take in images, it certainly has an impact on our mood. It can exacerbate stress. And so we want to have a good diet of what we see, what we watch, what we take in, and then importantly, talking about it, talking about what we see, talking about what we know. So important to try to understand the world and to have compassion outside of our immediate sphere of influence. So it is that balance of addressing what's happening, at the same time monitoring how much we are spending time with it in order to manage our own mood, our own well-being in our day-to-day life.
So good, Dr. Schwall. Thank you for giving us some tools, some advice, to be a bit healthier in such a difficult time. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, if you